buddy, do we have a lot to talk about today. But before we do, I gotta address a couple things. One, a lot of people commented in last week's video that their children enjoy Chug, and they buy it for their children, and it can be for collectors of all ages, and, you know, look, of course. Like, and if your kids love it, then by all means, buy it for your kids, have your kids enjoy it, get them into the franchise. Absolutely. 100%. I'm all about the kids. I got kids of my own. In no way, shape, or form am I saying that you can't give your kids Chugs. What I'm saying is, that's not who they're marketed toward. Secondly, the t-shirts and hoodie orders, most of them are in. I get the rest next week, and then I'll start shipping them out and all that kind of stuff. I got Baltimore Comic-Con next weekend. I'm at table A248 in Artist Alley. Come by, say what's up, pick up your t-shirt, whatever, like, shake hands. Brian C., you bought a t-shirt? You're a Maryland guy? I'm hoping to see you at Baltimore Comic-Con. I think we need to talk. Table A248. Another thing, there's comments about my messy table. It is a mess. This is where we record Nerd Rage Radio. It's also where I do the sit-down Saturdays. It's a multi-purpose table, so we gotta work through it. And lastly, somebody commented on my Zeta Toys Combaticons video, because I said, to me, all the combiners should be about the same size. If one was going to be bigger, I'd prefer it be Predaking. And they said something along the lines of, like, 5 jungle animals being bigger than 5 jet planes. Like, what planet are you from? And I'm from the same planet where a handgun is bigger than a jet. I'm from that planet. Now, let's get into drama. There's a couple things. I have notes for this because it gets complicated. Look at this. It's a mess. We're going to talk about 2 things today. One, these Make Toys jet wing fillers. I take issue with this sort of stuff. Now, I heard they were doing this, and if memory serves, it was supposed to be included in future releases. In which case, cool, awesome. But I take issue with selling them separately. Like, don't sell me something incomplete and then sell me the rest of it. That doesn't work for me. I don't know how people feel out there about it, but that's how I feel about it. Like, can you imagine going to Burger King and, like, buying a Whopper? You're in the drive-thru, you get your bag, and then you realize you gotta go back in and buy the cheese for it? It just doesn't seem appropriate to me. What do I know? And now we gotta get to the meat and potatoes of all this. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard this. I'm gonna try to give the best timeline that I can, but it gets very confusing. It's a lot of hearsay. I'm going to try to remain as objective as possible because I don't know all the ins and outs of it. I'm not trying to pretend that I know all the ins and outs of it, and therefore I'm not trying to get a witch hunt together. But it's something that's happening in the community, and we gotta talk about it. Alright, now let me try to make sense of this situation that's recently come up on social media regarding some of these companies. I first got legit wind of it when Moss Toys published a post on Facebook about it. You can go to their page and find all the screenshots. It's like one of their first posts. I am going to try to make sense of it objectively the best that I can. I'm not here to figure out who's at fault or who's to blame, just to make sense of it. And then I'm going to give some of my opinions on it because I just can't help myself sometimes. Let's establish the players. Hot Soldiers, Mr. Moon, Papa Toys, Mech Fans Toys. So I'm going to go through this post first. And from this, there seems to be 2 main players. A gentleman named Nick and a gentleman that he names by name Arturo. Let me try to make sense of this post because it is translated to English and it's the only language I speak. I should call Joe, but I can't right now. Actually, I'm supposed to call him back yesterday. This is a busy time of year for me. Sorry, Joe. Let me try to make sense of this post. So Nick seems to be upset that he was slandered on Weibo by Mech Fans Toys, who he associates with Arturo. Apparently, this post made a lot of accusations about Nick, which I would imagine would be thievery and such, just given the brands that we're talking about. Now, Nick accuses Arturo of launching the Mr. Moon brand, which has a connection to the Hot Soldier Soundwave, and also that Mr. Moon was putting out an Inferno and Grapple, and that Mr. Moon was going to sell it at half price. Now, this Inferno and Grapple had also been promoted by Papa Toys. And once again, I'm just trying to make sense of this post, and then we'll try to make sense of the timeline. And then lastly, he accuses Arturo of stealing the Moss Toys pipes design and getting ready to KO that. Now, they produced this in a document that's supposed to be a legal document. Let me just go on record and say I don't believe that it is a legal document. It doesn't look like a legal document, and there's verbiage in it that I don't necessarily find consistent with legal documents. But I'm not sure how they do things in all parts of the world, and maybe it is. However, things like Mr. Nick always keeps silent in the principle that the wise man knows he knows nothing doesn't quite sound like something that would pop up in a legal document. Now, let me try to establish a timeline for you and make sense of it the best I can. And I don't proclaim to have all the answers, not in the least. This is just my interpretation of the information that I've been given. So the first thing that we see is this Hot Soldier sound wave. I reviewed it here on my channel. Now this has a connection to the Mr. Moon Blaster and Perceptor, which seem to be based on that design. However, Mr. Moon also has a Cliff Jumper coming, which seems to be an original design. Mech Fans Toys has a lot of KO stuff, including the KO DX9 Dinobots, but they do have an original Omega Supreme, which supposedly has some sort of KO guns. I don't know anything about that from a non-transforming toy, but that design does seem to be original. Now, there is a connection between Mech Fans Toys and Hot Soldiers, and I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but there is a connection at some point. There's also a connection of Arturo to Mech Fans Toys. Now, recently on Arturo's Facebook, he claimed that his hot rod design for Mech Fans Toys, I would imagine, was stolen. And then we see a hot rod design pop up from Papa Toys. Now, Papa Toys is associated with Nick, I would believe, and they also had an Inferno and Grapple. And he's upset because Mr. Moon has now teased an Inferno and Grapple at half the price, which would suggest that it's a KO. And due to Nick, we've also heard that Mr. Moon is Arturo. Now that would connect Arturo to Mr. Moon, Mech Fans Toys, and Hot Soldiers, and Nick and Papa Toys. So that's the division. Both of these companies have released KOs. Mech Fans Toys has released a slew of KOs. It seems like Mr. Moon's Blaster and Perceptor is a KO of the Hot Soldier Soundwave, but if they're all connected, I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'm not sure if that classifies as a KO or not. And then it would also seem that the Inferno and Grapple from Mr. Moon would be somehow related to the Inferno and Grapple of Papa Toys. Now, Papa Toys has also put out KOs. Those KOs were of the upscaled Reflector from Perfect Effect. But the main issue, to me, objectively, from the outside looking in, seems a quid pro quo tit for tat. Mech Fans Toys, which would seemingly be Hot Soldiers, Mech Fans Toys, and Mr. Moon, being upset with Papa Toys taking the hot rod. And then Papa Toys, in turn, being upset with Mr. Moon taking the Inferno and Grapple. That seems to be the main beef. Now, how do I feel about it? There is something going on, and it's bigger than this. There is something going on with stolen designs in third party. Now, I've never spoken, I'm going to be 100% honest. I've never spoken to Mr. Nick. I have spoken to Arturo. He has PM'd me. And I'm just being honest, we've always had pleasant conversation. Does that make him innocent? No. I don't know. Does that make Nick guilty? No. Neither that either. I don't know enough about it. I'm not here to point fingers. I'm here to try to make sense of it. And I can tell you, I've been making notes and trying to draw the lines and connect the dots, talking to people, interacting with people to try to figure out what's going on, to bring this information to you guys. And the further I get into it, the messier it gets. But it definitely comes down to those two guys. Now, this gets more complicated in my opinion, because Nick suggests that Arturo is the guy behind Daka Toys Chronos. And Arturo denies that I've seen in comment sections of different stuff. But if he were, and it made connections to Chronos, that does complicate the entire situation of how things have been playing out for a while. And I'm not ready to quite dive into that rabbit hole yet. But at that point, Fans Toys is involved, and Gigapower is involved. And DX9, possibly. But this is just me getting in my investigative journalism pocket. But it ultimately seems to me like 4 or 5 different companies that have heavily planted their feet in KO product. One individual is more tied to one company, the other individual is more tied to the other company. One stole from the other stole back from them, or something along those lines, and the falling out has occurred. But there's a bigger problem going on, because designs are getting stolen, I'm hearing, left and right out there. We saw the situation happen with Keith, and Keith fired back, and I'll always have respect for Keith for the way that he handled that. And I've heard rumblings about it in other places, other companies having designs taken. And I would imagine that somebody associated with these two companies knows the truth about it all. All of that element seems to kind of be funneling down into these two companies. And when I say two companies, obviously I mean the larger conglomerate of the 5 or whatever it happens to be. I don't want to get too much on the KO stuff. I've kind of unloaded my clip on that. People know how I feel about it. They know why I feel about it. They either agree with me or disagree with me, and I'm good with that. I'm 100% good with that. But I want to talk about character traits for just a second. This is what I'm going to go out on. If you're KOing something, you are stealing it, right? We all agree that, whether it's okay or not, and if you fix the stuff and all that, I get the counter arguments, but we are talking about a stolen design, right? So that is a character trait, stealing, right? My grandmother used to say to me, be careful of the dog that brings you a bone, because that dog will carry a bone. Meaning, if you know somebody is doing something, but they're not necessarily doing it to you, be careful, because there's a good chance they'll do it to you. If the dog is bringing you a stolen design, chances is that dog might steal your design one day. It's like anything else. I'm not here to get on a soapbox, and I'm not perfect. I'm far from it. But one of the things that I believe in personally is loyalty. I'm a loyal guy. I'm loyal to my family. I'm loyal to my friends. I'm loyal to my viewers. Throughout my life, I've known people that have done stuff to be disloyal, as most of us have, right? But this is how it affects me. So if a guy is going to cheat on his wife, why would I trust that individual? His family can't trust him. So why would I trust him? Now, I'm not here to judge any of you guys if you're into that sort of behavior, but it's not my bag. But I say that to say this: if you're associating with people that are stealing designs, or could have possibly been stealing designs, why would you not think they would steal from you? You got to be able to see the character and move accordingly. I hope I was able to make some sort of sense for you about this. I don't know if I'm right. I'm just looking at the information and trying to deduct, and I'm trying to be objective. I'm not trying to get torches and picket signs and go after anybody. I don't know, but I'm trying to make sense of it, and that's the best I can do. Hope it helps. Mostoy said in that post that they think the entire structure of third party is collapsing, something along that line. And I think that they're talking about because of, the shady stuff, the smoke and mirrors. And that's a shame. But I think a lot in life comes down to like famous one-liners or turns of phrase. And the truth is, there's no honor amongst thieves. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.